Hello, hello, hello. This is Els coming to you from Bemis Crafty Corner. And I want to tell you about the project we're going to do today. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a tools list, okay? We're going to need some glue. You're going to need a box knife and a cutting board. You're going to need a regular cutter of some kind. This is not my regular cutter, but because of the wire that's on this, it helps me to see what I'm cutting. So that's what I'm going to be using. You're going to be looking for some ribbon or some baker's twine, some scissors, Mod Podge, or Duraclear, or whatever sealer you like to use. Even the homemade kind will work for this. You're going to want a ruler. That's important. You're going to probably want to have some paint and some paint brushes. And the colors you're going to be looking for are things like metallics, bright Christmas colors, possibly some browns. You're also going to want some heavyweight cardstock. And you're probably going to want probably 4 sheets or so of some coffee or tea dyed paper. Okay? Another thing that's helpful to have, but if you don't have it, that's okay, are these right here. And these are little screw-in eyelets. And if you don't have them, that's okay. You can always just use ribbons, and I'll show you how to use ribbons opposed to using the screw-in eyelets, okay? So, let's get started. Oh, one other thing. Down in the description box, there's a Google Drive link. You're going to want to click on that because it's going to take you to the printables for this craft. And you're going to want to make 2 copies of them. Now, if your printer is the kind that runs when you put Mod Podge on your ink, what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to spray that with either the Duraclear, some hairspray, or some spray polyurethane, okay? Just to seal the colors so that you can do this and it doesn't run and get all ick, okay? All right, I'm going to clear this stuff away and we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cut down all of the images. And we're going to do that without leaving any white showing. So once you have all the images cut, and you can do these by hand if you want. If you're a steady hand, go ahead and do it by hand. If you're like me and you hate fussy cutting and you do not have a very steady hand, well then by all means, use a cutter. So we're just going to cut all these down. And once you have them all cut down, we'll get started on the next part of the project. Okay, now if you're accurate, these should all be 1.5 by 2.25 inches. Okay, and you're going to just put the sets together. And then we're going to kind of set these off to the side here, because we're going to need them, but not at the moment. Okay. So I just got them all paired up. I'm going to set them off to the side, and I'm going to bring in the cardboard or chipboard that we're going to be using, and my cutting board, just to protect my work surface. And I'm going to get out that knife of mine. And I'm just going to cut this into more manageable pieces real quick. And all I'm really doing here is just basically cutting through the paper that they have wrapped the chipboard in. So this cut is pretty easy. Just watch your fingers, okay, guys? Don't mutilate the hands. All right, get that one off, and then we'll get this one off of here as well. Okay, now most of this we're going to be able to do out of the side pieces here. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be cutting these pieces of chipboard down to the size of these little book covers. So we're going to be cutting this at 1.5 inches wide. So we want to cut some strips that are just about 1.5 inches, okay? So to do that, I'm going to put this on my board here. Let me cut this in half first because I just really want to have something here. We'll use a smaller one. Okay. So I'm just going to line this up nice and even. I'm going to come into 1.5 inches. Just going to take right there. And I'm just going to use my razor knife to score this. And using my razor or X-Acto knife, I'm just going to cut through it a few times till I get all the way through. And you can tell. Okay. Nice and straight. There we go. Okay. Now, my little books are just about around 2¼ inches. So we're going to cut this at around 2¼ inches. So that's what we're going to be using our grid for. So we're going to put this on here. And we're just going to move this to 2¼ inches. For me is right there. And I'm just going to cut this. Okay, so once you've got your chipboard all cut out, you can use your scissors to kind of clean up your edges and stuff. Just make them look as nice as you want. Or, you know, if you're an avid reader, maybe your books are, you know, a little torn up around the edges. That's okay too. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm either going to use glue or tape, and I'm going to stack these one on top of the other. I'm just going to line them up nice and straight. And I'm going to put 4 pieces together. I'm using my board to kind of make sure that I get them nice and straight. Okay. They don't have to be absolutely perfect, but they do need to be straight. Okay. All right, so that is the end of step number 1. We're going to let this dry, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so we took all of our pieces that are 1.5 by 2¼ and we glued them all together, and we came up with these. Now, they don't have to be perfect and they don't have to be pretty, because the next part of this is where we're going to kind of even them out a little bit. And what we're going to use is some texture paste. Now, you can use plain white if you want to. This is modeling paste, pretty much the same thing. You can use a colored one if you want. That would work. The gold will work, whichever one you want to use. For the purpose of this, I'm actually going to use the regular modeling paste here. And I'm going to put a small amount of this onto just a piece of paper that I can use sort of as a palette. Take one of my books, get a little bit of modeling paste on here, and I'm just going to add it to the edge of this, sort of using it to fill it in and make it more even. And just make sure that I keep it clean off the edges. And I'm just going to do all 4 sides of every one of my little frames here. And you see, all I'm doing is just using it to smooth out the edge. So I'm just going to take some, wipe it on there, and then just use my knife to spread it around. Now this stuff dries pretty quick, so you do want to be kind of fast at this. Okay. Just gonna, kind of like icing a cake, we're just going to go around and kind of even these sides up. And we're going to get as much of this off of here as we can. We can come back later with a straight, with a putty knife or something, and clean these off or just sand them down. It's not a problem. But we're going to do all of them all the way around, just like that. Okay? Just like that. Just kind of using the modeling paste to get into the grooves. And we're going to do all of them, just like that. Now, if you get one and you're doing it, it just comes out too perfect. And you want to kind of give it a little bit more of a page look, like it's really smooth. And I'll make this one really smooth so we can see that. And you've got this, it's just really smooth. That's where that paintbrush is going to come in, because you can take that paintbrush and just kind of move through it just lightly, and it gives you almost a book look. See? You're just going to add the modeling paste and use your knife to put it on. You can use the brush to kind of give it some texture if you want. Entirely up to you. Just remember, you have to work quick when you're working with modeling paste because it does dry pretty fast, and as soon as it's dry, it's there, okay? So again, I have this little bit here, and I just want to kind of give it a little bit more of a rough book-looking edge, okay? Got a little bit more modeling paste here. We'll do this edge. So just a little bit of modeling paste at a time here. Don't put a huge amount out, because if you put out a huge amount, it's going to dry before you can use it. So just enough to work a couple of sides at a time. A little bit at a time, filling in the spaces. You can use, you know, if you want to shape it, make it kind of rounded, you could do that. You could leave it a little rough if you want to. However you want to put it on here, okay, because this is the look you're going for. So, you know, you may try it one way and then decide you want it some way else, some other way. That's okay. See, that's a little too smooth for me, so I'm going to come back in with my brush and just rough it up a little bit. Just rough it up all the way around. Now this dries pretty quick, like I said, so you're going to have to move fast, okay? So let's do all of these, and then we'll come right back, and I'll show you how to finish this off. Okay, so we went through, and we put our modeling paste onto all of our pieces. And at this point, what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of, oopsie, we're just going to kind of clean these up a little bit. Now, you can skip this part if you want. You can do it, whatever you want to do. But you definitely kind of need to clean a little bit of that modeling paste off where it may have bulked up a bit. Otherwise, it's going to come through on your finished ornament. So this is the messy part. Not hiding it. Yep, crafting is messy. I know, right? How dare I admit that? You can see we've got just some high edges here. I'm just going to clean those down. Keep your fingers out of the way, people. You don't want anybody losing a finger over crafting. Now, I've made 7 of these because I have 7 covers. Now, you may have a favorite book, or you may only want to do 1 of these, or 2 of these, or whatever. It's entirely up to you. But I did all 7 just so you guys could see what all 7 of them look like. Complete it. Now, I'm using the Harry Potter, and I've included those pieces, but of course you could use any book you want it to. You just have to minimize the file down to a working size, because you don't want to, you know, 8-foot or an 8-inch ornament on your tree. That would be a little ridiculous. But you could use any book that you wanted to do this. So just cleaning these up a bit, making sure they're all nice and somewhat even. Okay. All right. Just going to get out my little brush here. Brush these off a bit. It's just to make sure they don't have any residue on them that might interfere with the gluing process. Okay. All right, so let me get rid of all of this. Into the trash. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books. We got 7 book covers. See that? We have 2 copies of each. So we're going to make 7 books. Now at this stage, if you want to add some color to the edges of your book, or you want to put some glitter glue on there, this is the point where you would do that. I am going to be painting mine, at least one of them, gold. So I'm going to use a small brush. And let's get one of the ones that we used, that we textured. Here we go. And I'm just going to tap the gold paint into it. And at this point, it doesn't matter if I go over the edge. Because we're going to cover that. Nobody's ever going to see it. So I'm just kind of going around the edge. Just to add a little bit of shimmer. A little bit of color. Making sure I really get in those corners, okay? One more over here. We'll do this last one. So I'm going to pause the video here while I finish painting these up. And if you want to pause the video so that you can paint or add glitter or whatever you want to do to yours, this would be a good point to do that. Okay, so I painted up all the edges on these, and I'm using these tiny little screw-in eyelets that I have. And you could put, you know, an eyelet in here when you were gluing it together between the centers, or you can use these little screw-in ones if you want. You can get these in most hardware stores, and you can get them in some craft stores as well. But I'm just kind of screwing these in by hand to, you know, about the middle of each one. It's just going to give me a place later on to be able to attach things. So once you put these in, you may have to touch up the paint a little bit. So let's just kind of look and see if there's any that really need. This one needs some painting. This one could use a little bit. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick and get that touched up. I'm just going to get the paint out real quick. A little bit of paint on the brush there. And I'm just going to touch up those areas that kind of white it up a little bit, where we may have nicked. And the reason that we put these in after we painted these is because we didn't really want to get paint on them. You could paint them, put them in and paint them if you wanted to. Entirely up to you. Let me just get these little areas here. Let me see this one. And this one looks good. That one looks good. Fantastic. Oh, there's a little bit of white there. Get that one. There we go. All right. A little bit of white there. I see a little bit of white. There we go. Okay. All right, so now that I have those all done like that, and they're all repainted and look nice, we'll move on to the next portion of this, which is going to be actually making them look like books. So you may have some white edges here as you cut this out. And you can either trim those down, or you can ink them if you'd like. Okay, so we have our frames done. We've got all of our books printed out. Now we're going to attach the books to the frames. Now you can use Mod Podge, triple thick, Duraclear, whatever sealer and adhesive you want to use. I will be using my homemade Mod Podge today, so I'm going to give that a shake. I'm going to get that opened up. There we go. And I've got water here so that I can rinse my brush. And pretty much I'm just going to get some Mod Podge on my brush. And I'm going to put a fairly nice coat on the front here. And then I'm going to take one of my pictures. I'm going to put that on there. Press it down. And I'm just going to square it up. And I'm going to put some Mod Podge over the top just to give it a bit of a shine and to seal it on there. Okay. Now obviously we're only going to work one book at a time because we have to give them a time to dry. So we'll move on to the next one. We're just going to do all 7 book covers exactly the same. Add some Mod Podge. 2. Put a book cover on. Just like that. Give it a couple of seconds. And then we're going to Mod Podge over the top. Now I recommend that you dry fit all your book covers because some of them may need to be cut down just slightly. So we're just basically going to be doing all of these the same. We're going to add a little bit of Mod Podge or glue, whatever you choose to use. And then we're going to put one of our book covers on, lining it up the way that we want it, and then just covering with some Mod Podge or triple thick or whatever we're using, just to give it a sealed, finished look. Paying attention to our corners because we want those to be adhered. And we'll set it to the side and we'll move on to the next one. We're only going to put one book cover, one and one, because we're going to be using the other book cover on the other side. Rather than putting the back of the book on. Okay. So that no matter which way they look at this, it's going to be the cover of the book. Okay. So putting it on, holding it for a second, give it a chance to adhere, and then coming back over it again, just sealing it and giving it the gloss finish. All right. So now we have these all done down, and what we're going to do is we're going to match them up, okay? We want to make sure that we put the right books on both sides, okay? So let's kind of pair them up. Because we want to make sure we don't mess this up. Now again, like I said, you can use your Mod Podge or you can use your glue, whatever it is you want to use to do this, okay? And you're just, you know, gluing these down. Once you've got them all set down, and of course I'm using glue on this side just so that, you know, just in fairness to the glue, I would not recommend double-sided tape on this though. Okay. Get that on there. This one. making sure that we keep our tops at the top and our bottoms at the bottom. We're just gluing these on. Okay. All right. So that's pretty easy. Now, if you notice, you're going to see that some of this hangs over. And there's a couple of ways that you can take care of that. You can leave it just the way it is, or you can just take a small pair of scissors and come in and just trim it away. Anywhere that it hangs over, okay? We're going to do that to all of these, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get these all cleaned up, and I will be right back, and we will finish these off, okay? All right. Okay, let's take a look at where we're at. So this is what our books look like now, and they're double-sided. So it doesn't matter how it hangs on the tree. If it spins or rotates, it's always going to be looking like the book. We have all 7 of them completed. And what I did is I went through and I actually put 2 coats of Duraclear on here, just so I get that kind of glassy finish on them. And I did all the edges as well. So these are fully sealed. And they're pretty heavy. They weigh pretty good. And they are about done. I just attached a piece of baker's twine at the top in order to be able to hang them on the tree. And if you want to add some other kind of decoration, of course, that is entirely up to you. But let's take a look at some of the other printables that came. So the next one we had was this one here. And that was the Fantastical Beasts. And on this one, we did a 3-layer of chipboard. We pre-painted it with some glitter. We added a little bit of that glitter color around the edge just to kind of bring it up and make it pop. And then on some of them, we just, in the glue process, we just added some baker's twine inside between the layers, or just a piece of ribbon that we can use to put a hanger on to put that on the tree. So that was the Fantastical Beasts section. The next one we did was the platform tickets. Let's take a look at those. And as you can see, this was a single double layer of the chipboard on this one. So we just put the double layer of chipboard on. We clamped it all together, let it dry up. We just put the tickets on the front and the back. And I painted this one gold before I did that. And then I went around and just put a little line of gold paint using a paint pen around the edges here. And that's how that one came out. The next one we did was the Daily Prophet. And there are 8 copies of the Daily Prophet. And so I just randomly put one on one side and one on the other, just making sure that I didn't put the same design on both sides. Just being careful. And then what I did on this one, again, I glued in a piece of twine between 2 pieces of chipboard and pressed that down with some clamps so that it was nice and flush. Pre-painted this, then added my paper to the front, and I used a little bit of hot glue just to affix a bow on the front of each of those. So those are our Daily Prophets. And then the last one was our proclamations. And again, we used 2 pieces of chipboard here, and I pre-painted all my edges. And then I just added the paper. Now, I didn't care if this one hung over because being a little rustic is kind of what this one was all about. So you have 6 of the educational proclamations here, the educational decrees. And again, I just made some small bows and tacked that on with a little bit of hot glue. And this one we used the metal piece at the top, the eyelet, in order to add the baker's twine. So these are all ready to go. So that is 26 ornaments for your tree. And if you put these in a box, they would make an excellent gift for any Harry Potter fan, for a child in your life, or just on your own tree. So this is my Christmas present to all of you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you create this project at home and give it your own touches. By all means, put any kind of bling or glitter or anything that you need to on any of these. And till I see you guys again, if you haven't done so, go ahead and hit the red button, subscribe to my channel, like me, ring my bell, and share me with all your friends so that they can be my friends. Till the next time, bye-bye.